What's up, everyone, and welcome back to CyberSecurity Weekly, where we review the security events that happened in the last week. It's been a couple of weeks. I've taken the time off to revamp a number of things, including my CyberSecurity Weekly, as well as my dailies, and begin the process of launching my own startup. So let's get started. 3CX supply chain attack allowed targeting cryptocurrency firms. So on March 22nd, 2023, cybersecurity vendors detected a spike in malicious activity related to the popular video and voice conferencing software 3CX desktop app, suggesting the company had suffered a supply chain attack. The attack involved distributing digitally signed Trojanized installers to customers, and 3CX claims to have 600,000 customers with a combined 12 million daily users. The attack is believed to be the work of the North Korea-linked Lazarus app group, who have used the Gopurium backdoor to connect to a command and control server and launch in-memory modules. While the malware is believed to have been deployed to less than only 10 machines, so 600,000 customers, 12 million daily users, and only 3 machines infected, indicating a highly targeted attack. So the impact of the attack could be devastating to 3CX because it's used by, again, organizations in almost every industry, including automobile, food and beverage, hospitality, managed information technology service providers, or MSPs. You remember all the CISA activity a couple of years ago, and manufacturing. So if the attackers are successful in gaining access to the command and control server, then they could have access to the customer company's data as well as the 12 million daily users data. So how do you protect yourself against this kind of stuff? Well, industries possibly directly impacted, again, the automotive, food, beverage, hospitality, MSPs, and manufacturing, you really need to look about updating your software regularly and checking hash keys. When you download new software, you need to keep it up to date. You need to install reliable antivirus software and use two-factor authentication using VPNs and backup important data regularly. Moving on, Google's Threat Analysis Group, or TAG, has identified a North Korea-linked group called ARCHIPELAGO that is targeting government and military personnel, think tanks, policymakers, academics, and researchers in South Korea, the US, and elsewhere. The group is believed to be a subset of a threat actor tracked by Mandiant as APT43. So the attack chain starts with phishing emails that embed malicious links, and the group has shifted its tactics over time to avoid detection. The group has used malware like Baby Shark hosted on Google Drive, or malicious Chrome extensions, and phishing messages posing as Google account security alerts. All of these tactics have been employed to harvest sensitive data from victims. So the impact of ARCHIPELAGO's activities could be far-reaching, as the group is targeting individuals with expertise in North Korea policy issues. The group is also attempting to harvest sensitive data from victims, which could be used for malicious purposes. Furthermore, the group is using tactics that are designed to avoid detection, which could make it difficult to identify and respond to the threat. So how do you protect yourself? Government and military personnel, think tanks, policymakers, academics, researchers. You need to avoid clicking on suspicious links on downloading suspicious files. You need to be aware of phishing emails and messages, keep software and operating systems up to date, implement two-factor authentication, and regularly back up important data. So we're going to be repeating all of these probably in every single story. Bottom line is, if you take these kinds of precautions and try to stay away from these sort of phishing links and phishing emails, you can do yourself a major service. Apple has released emergency security updates to address 2 actively exploited zero-day vulnerabilities tracked to CVE 2023-28205 and CVE 2023-28206, impacting iPhones, Macs, and iPads. Both of these vulnerabilities were reported by Clément Lesnier of Google's Threat Analysis Group. We've heard of him a number of times with regard to Apple and their products. And Doncha O'Carabale, I think that's the first time I've ever hacked that name up, so it's probably the first time I've ever said that person's name, of Amnesty International Security Lab. The first vulnerability, CVE 2023-28205, is a use after free issue that resides in the WebKit. It's always the WebKit. And its exploitation may lead to arbitrary code execution. An attacker can trigger the flaw by tricking victims into loading maliciously crafted web pages. Second vulnerability, CVE 8206 is an out-of-bounds write issue that resides in the I/O Surface Accelerator. An app may be able to execute arbitrary code with kernel privileges. Ooh! Apple addressed both of these issues with the release of macOS Ventura 13.3.01, iOS 16.4.1, iPadOS 16.4.1, and Safari 16.4.1. In February, Apple also released an emergency security update to address an actively exploited zero-day vulnerability tracked as CVE 2023-23529 that impacts iOS, iPadOS, and macOS. This flaw is a type confusion issue in WebKit that was addressed by the company with improved checks. The U.S. Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency has added 9 new vulnerabilities to its Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog in response to a recent report from Google's TAG team. 5 of these issues added to the catalog are part of the exploits used by surveillance vendors to target mobile devices with their commercial spyware. Now, according to the BOD 22-01, federal agencies must address these vulnerabilities by the due date to protect their networks against attacks exploiting the flaws in the catalog. Private organizations are also advised to review the catalog and address the vulnerabilities in their infrastructure. Again, CISA, the U.S. Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, has added a Zimbra flaw tracked to CVE 2022-27926 to its Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog. The flaw affects Zimbra collection version 9.0.0, which is used to host publicly facing webmail portals. Proofpoint researchers recently reported that a Russian hacking group tracked as Winter Vivern, aka TA473, has been actively exploiting the vulnerability to gain access to the emails of NATO officials, governments, military personnel, and diplomats. The attackers can also use the compromised accounts to carry out lateral phishing attacks and further infiltrate the targeted organizations. TA473 has been targeting U.S. elected officials and staffers of those officials since at least February 2023, which is only a couple months ago, so it sounds longer than it is. The threat actors created bespoke JavaScript payloads, ooh, that's fancy, designed for each government target's webmail portal. The JavaScript payloads are designed to conduct cross-site request forgery attacks and steal usernames, passwords, and store active session and CSRF tokens from cookies, facilitating the login to publicly facing target webmail portals. So they want the CSRFs to basically hack into your webmail portals. Binding Operational Directive 2201, I'm not even going to read that anymore. If you don't know it, you should know it. Again, CISA. There's a lot from CISA coming out, huh? Cybercrime is becoming increasingly prevalent, leaving businesses and individuals vulnerable to attack. The U.S. government has responded to this threat by forming the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency and the Joint Cyber Defense Collective. The JCDC is planning proactive measures to reduce risk, including updating National Cyber Incident Response Plan in collaboration with the FBI and forming defense plans for high-risk sectors such as civil organizations, public utilities, and the power grid. These measures are intended to protect citizens and businesses from the $43 billion scam known as business email compromise. Kaspersky researchers have recently discovered a malicious version of the Tor browser that is spreading a Clipper malware in Russia and Eastern Europe. The attackers are taking advantage of the fact that the official Tor project has been banned in Russia since the end of 2021. So users in Russia are searching for third-party repositories to download the Tor browser. The malicious installers offered Tor browser with a regional language pack, including Russian. The malicious file is a RAR SFX archive that is password protected to evade detection. Now, upon execution, the malicious file drops an executable into one of the current user app data subdirectories and registers itself in the system auto-start. The Clipper malware is protected with the commercial software protector Enigma Packer version 4.0 and is designed to replace the wallet address in the Windows clipboard with one randomly chosen address from a hard-coded list. The malware has spread to at least 52 countries worldwide, with the top 10 affected countries being Russia, the Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Belarus, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Moldova, Armenia, and Tajikistan. The malicious version of the Tor browser, just because it's been attacking or been infiltrating into those countries does not mean it cannot reach the US, but it can have serious repercussions for users who install it. For right now, Russia and Eastern Europe, as their wallet addresses could be replaced with ones from a hard-coded list, resulting in financial losses. Furthermore, the malware can have a broader impact on the software industry, as malicious actors can use similar techniques to target users of other software products. So how do you protect yourself? Users should only download Tor browser from the official Tor project website. Additionally, users should check the digital signature of the software to ensure that it is from a trusted source. Software developers should implement measures to prevent malicious actors from creating Trojanized versions of their software, if that's possible, such as digital signature verifications and code signing. Software companies should ensure that their software is regularly updated to fix security vulnerabilities that may be exploited by malicious actors. The cyber police of the Ukraine, on the ball here, with support of the law enforcement officials from the Czech Republic, has arrested several members of cybercriminal ring that defrauded EU citizens of $4.33 million with phishing campaigns. The suspects set up more than 100 phishing websites to obtain the bank card data and banking account credentials of foreign citizens. The cybercrime organization also created 2 call centers in Vinnytsia and in Lviv as part of the fraudulent scheme. The authorities identified more than 1,000 victims from multiple countries, including the Czech Republic, Poland, France, Spain, Portugal, and other European countries. The police estimated that the total amount of damages is more than 160 million hryvnias, or $4.3 million. The perpetrators may face a maximum sentence of up to 12 years in prison. The cybercriminal ring is believed to be a part of a larger international hacker group that exploits flaws in software and services to gain access to victims' financial information, so the people who got arrested are probably just the minions and not the leaders. The victims of this attack are likely to be customers of the services and software that have flaws exploited by the hacker group. Google's threat analysis group, TAG, again, has recently uncovered 2 distinct campaigns that used multiple zero-day and end-day exploits to install commercial spyware and malicious apps on target devices. The first campaign was discovered in November 2022 and targeted users in Italy, Malaysia, and Kazakhstan. The exploit chain used was a WebKit remote code execution zero-day CVE 2022-42856. So this is different than the WebKit that we were talking about earlier that Apple fixed, and a Sandbox Escape CVE 2021-30900 issue. The second campaign, which was discovered in December 2022, targeted users in the United Arab Emirates with the Variston commercial spyware. The exploit chain used multiple 0 days and end days and was delivered via one-time links sent via SMS. It's believed that the threat actor behind this campaign could be a customer or partner of Variston or a third party working closely with the spyware vendor. So the impact of these types of campaigns, of course, SMS phishing or smishing, could be significant as they allow attackers to gain access to sensitive data stored on victims' devices. So they actually get on your device, and whatever's in your phone, they then have access to. This data could include emails, contacts, messages, or other personal information. In addition, the malicious apps and spyware installed on devices could be used to track victims and their activities, as well as to gain access to other devices and networks. PatchStack, a WordPress security firm, has recently warned of a high-severity vulnerability in the Elementor Pro WordPress plugin that's currently being exploited by threat actors in the wild. Elementor Pro is a paid plugin that is installed on over 11 million websites, which allows users to easily create WordPress websites. The vulnerability was reported by security researcher Jerome Brandet from NinTechNet and affects version 3.11.6 and all versions before it. This vulnerability allows authenticated users such as shop customers or site members to change the site settings to potentially lead to a complete site takeover. The vulnerability is exploited through a vulnerable AJAX action, pro_WooCommerce_update page option, which is used by Elementor's built-in editor. The issue stems from improper input validation and a lack of capability check to restrict its access to a high-privileged user only. PatchStack researchers are observing attacks from multiple IP addresses and are seeing files being uploaded with certain file names. The attackers are also changing the site URL to away.trackersline.com. Administrators of WordPress sites using Elementor Pro are urged to upgrade to version 3.11.7 or later immediately. Here, I think the impact is pretty obvious, but the impact of this vulnerability is that it could allow an unauthenticated or an authenticated attacker to gain access to the WordPress site and potentially take it over. This could include creating administrator accounts, changing the administrator email address, or redirecting all traffic to an external malicious website. This could lead to compromise of sensitive data, financial losses, and reputation damage. So how do you protect yourself? Besides not using WordPress at all, you need to make sure you're up to date. You need to make sure you have security scans and you have other types of security policies in place. Just read the WordPress docs and WordPress security docs that you find online. HP is aware of a critical vulnerability tracked to CV 2023-1707 with a CVSS version 3.1 score of 9.1. That affects tens of HP Enterprise LaserJet and HP LaserJet managed printers. The exploitation of the flaw can potentially lead to information disclosure, and the IT giant announced that it would take up to 90 days to address the vulnerability. An attack can trigger the bug to access data transmitted between the vulnerable HP printer and other systems on the same network segment. The company pointed out that the information disclosure can be achieved only by exploiting the flaw on vulnerable devices running future smart firmware version 5.6 and having IPsec enabled. The vendor has released temporary firmware mitigation for customers currently running Future Smart 5.6 with IPsec enabled on their printers. The company recommends customers immediately revert to a prior firmware version, Future Smart version 5.5.03. HP has not confirmed any active exploits of the vulnerability, but the potential exposure period was from mid-February 2023 until the end of March 2023. So, I mean, it's not really that long. Anywho, the Italian Data Protection Authority, Garantie Privacy, has temporarily banned ChatGPT due to the illegal collection of personal data and the absence of systems for verifying the age of minors. The authority pointed out that OpenAI, the US-based company developing managing the platform, does not alert users that it is collecting their data. Oh, fancy that. The authority claims that ChatGPT exposes minors to inappropriate responses for their age, despite the service being designed to respond to users aged above 13. Just think about I think it was TikTok, where inappropriate content, or was it another platform, was distributed out to minors. So the Italian SA imposed an immediate temporary limitation on the processing of Italian users' data by OpenAI and initiated an inquiry into the facts of the case. OpenAI will have to notify the Italian authority within 20 days of the measures implemented to comply with the order. If the company will fail to notify Italy's data protection agency, it will be fined up to €20 million, or 4% of the total worldwide annual turnover in compliance to the General Data Protection Regulation. Italian users that attempt to visit ChatGPT websites will display a message from OpenAI stating that the service has been suspended and that refunds are being issued to those who purchased a Plus subscription in March. So what's the impact here? Besides the fact that Italian users not being able to use and master ChatGPT and prompt engineering and all that other stuff, the impact is twofold. Firstly, users of ChatGPT platform have had their conversations and payment information exposed and are at risk of having their personal data collected and processed without their knowledge or consent. Secondly, minors are at risk of receiving inappropriate responses for their age, as the service does not have any age verification mechanism in place. This could lead to minors being exposed to inappropriate content, more inappropriate than they're exposed to on an everyday basis. So how do you protect yourself? So industries directly impacted by this breach include, chatbots and AI development companies, as well as companies that use chatbot and AI technology and have Italian customers per se. Additionally, users of ChatGPT platform, particularly minors, are at risk of being exposed to this inappropriate content. So to protect yourself from this breach, users of ChatGPT platform should be aware of the risks and take steps to ensure that their personal data is not being collected and processed without their consent. Companies should also ensure that they are compliant with data privacy regulations, that they have appropriate age verification mechanisms in place, or that they allow, for example, in this case, Italian users to opt out of any service or any use of ChatGPT with their information. It's also important to ensure that you are using reputable and secure services and platforms to engage with ChatGPT. The FBI recently seized Genesis Market, an invite-only black marketplace for stolen credit cards launched in 2017. The platform offered access to browser fingerprints that allowed crooks to impersonate victims and access their accounts on popular services like Amazon, eBay, Facebook, Gmail, Netflix, PayPal, Spotify, and Zoom. The seizure is part of an international law enforcement operation called Operation Cookie Monster, and the authorities are still searching for information about the administrators of the platform. Documents leaked from Russian IT contractor NTC Vulkan show it was likely involved in the development of offensive tools for the offensive tools, not offensive as in insulting, but offensive as in attacking tools for the Russia-linked apt group Sandworm. The documents demonstrate that the Russian company was commissioned for the development of tools, training programs, and a red team platform for exercising various types of offensive cyber operations, including cyber espionage, I/O, and operational technology attacks, or OT attacks. SCAN is a comprehensive framework that allows operators to gather different types of information, such as network details, configurations, vulnerabilities, among other types of data, to enable cyber operations. Amicet and Crystal 2B focus on developing the capability to control the information environment. The former could be used to manipulate public opinion, and the latter was designed to simulate IT/OT attacks. So the leaked documents from NTC Vulkan demonstrate that the Russian apt group Sandworm has been developing offensive tools for cyber operations. The tools are designed to gather information such as network details, configurations, vulnerabilities, as well as the control of the information environment and manipulate public opinion. So this could have a significant impact on users and customers of the software, service, or the main company affected. So how do you protect yourself? Industries directly impacted by the story include software and service companies, IT companies, government entities. So you protect yourself by ensuring your software and services are up to date with the latest security patches. Implementing a multi-step authentication process for access to sensitive data within your network. Ensure that your network is properly configured and monitored. Use a reputable antivirus program to protect your devices. You want to avoid, of course, clicking on suspicious links or opening attachments from unknown sources, especially if they ask you to turn on macros. And you want to regularly back up your data to the external source. On March 29, 2023, the LockBit ransomware gang announced the hack of the South Korean National Text Service. The group added the South Korean agency to its Tor leak site and announced the release of stolen data by April 1st, 2023 in case the ransom was not paid. National Tax Service is mainly in charge of the assessment and collection of internal taxes and is an external organization of the Ministry of Finance. The deadline has come and group has announced the publication of the stolen information. However, at the time of the writing of this article, it was not published. If the hack was real, the stolen data poses a severe risk to the privacy and security of South Korean citizens, as it contains personal and financial information which can be exploited by threat actors to carry out a broad range of fraudulent activities, including financial scams, identity theft. LockBit continues to be one of the most active ransomware gangs. In March, the group had added 100 new victims to its Tor leak site. In March, it added 100 new victims. So, the hack of the South Korean National Tax Service poses a severe risk, again, to privacy and security of South Korean citizens. So not necessarily American citizens or European citizens. We're talking specifically about South Korea. But in general, LockBit poses a risk to everybody. So how do you protect yourself? Use strong passwords, avoid clicking on suspicious links, and keep your software and operating system up to date. Organizations need to implement multi-factor authentication, use encryption, and have a robust backup system in place. Financial institutions, monitor transactions for suspicious activity. That means financial organizations need to become more proactive, and they need to monitor activity a lot more proactively. Use secure payment methods and ensure that customer data is stored securely. Government agencies, of course, implement security protocols, monitor for suspicious activity, and regularly update your software and systems, and follow the BOD 2201. Cobalt Strike is a paid penetration testing product developed and maintained by the company Fortra. It is used by threat actors, including ransomware groups and nation-state actors, to deploy malicious payloads, escalate privileges, and conduct lateral movements. Microsoft Digital Crimes Unit, or DCU, has collaborated with Fortra and Health Information Sharing and Analysis Center to secure a court order in the U.S. to remove cracked versions of Cobalt Strike, which are stolen, unlicensed, or otherwise unauthorized versions of or copies of the tool. Microsoft observed more than 68 ransomware attacks involving the use of cracked copies of Cobalt Strike against healthcare organizations in more than 19 countries around the world, causing huge financial damages to the attacked hospitals and interruptions to critical patient care services. Microsoft also observed nation-state actors, including apt groups from Russia, China, Vietnam, and Iran, using cracked copies of Cobalt Strike. Microsoft Fortra and Health ISAC are collaborating with the FBI Cyber Division, National Cyber Investigative Joint Task Force, and Europol's European Cybercrime Center on the case. Microsoft has recently addressed a misconfiguration issue in the Azure Active Directory identity and access management service that exposed multiple Microsoft applications, including the Bing management portal, to unauthorized access. The vulnerability was discovered by Wiz Research, which determined that about 25% of multi-tenant applications were vulnerable. The vulnerability is related to a misconfiguration in shared responsibility confusion, allowing any Azure user to log into the application without proper validation. This means that several Microsoft applications permit external parties to obtain, read, and write access. The researchers detailed a case study on the Bing Trivia application, which they have called Bing Bang, which demonstrates how the misconfiguration impacts Microsoft. An attacker can exploit the flaw to alter search results in Bing and even manipulate content on the homepage as part of the Bing Bang attack. They can also trigger a cross-site scripting attack on Bing.com and extract sensitive data, Outlook emails, calendars, OneDrive files, and more. According to SimilarWeb, Bing is the 27th most visited website in the world, with over 1 billion page views per month, potentially exposing millions of users to malicious search results and Office 365 data theft. So the misconfiguration issue has a severe impact, especially on multi-tenant applications without proper validation. A malicious actor with the same access as the researchers could have hijacked the most popular search results with the same payload and leaked sensitive data from millions of users. This would have exposed users' personal data, including Outlook emails and SharePoint documents, to malicious actors. So how do you protect yourself? Just don't use the internet, I guess. Or don't use Bing. I don't know. Ransomware gang Money Message has hacked the Taiwanese multinational IT corporation MSI, MicroStar International. MSI designs, manufactures, and sells motherboards and graphics cards. So those MSI motherboards that you remember, that's MSI. For customers in the United States, Canada, and internationally. Do you say United States and Canada don't belong to the international community? Why don't you just say internationally? Okay, the ransomware group has added the company to the list of victims on its Tor leak site, claiming to have stolen the source code from the company, including a framework to develop BIOS and private keys. The group has also published a series of screenshots of the company's CTMS and ERP databases. Money Message is threatening to publish the stolen files by Wednesday, April 12th, 2023, if the company does not pay the ransom of $4 million. This attack demonstrates the importance of cybersecurity measures and the need for companies to be vigilant in protecting their systems and data. It sounds like the little blurb they say when you take medicine. The side effects could include. So the attack on MSI, of course, has the potential to have significant consequences for the company, its customers, and the industry as a whole. MSI's customers could be affected by stolen source code and private keys. They can create their own biases. They could probably sign them as MSI and infect you at the bias level. So this could be used to gain access to their systems and data. Furthermore, the publication of the stolen files could have a damaging effect on the company's reputation and financial standing. Finally, this attack could lead to similar attacks on other companies in the industry, making it more important for them to ensure their systems and data are secure. FortiGuard Labs researchers have observed an ongoing hacking campaign targeting Cacti, CVE 2022-46169, and RealTek, CVE 2021-35394, vulnerabilities to spread Shellbot and Moobot malware. Shellbot is a Perl-based DDoS bot. I haven't heard Perl in years. Anyway, that uses IRC protocol for C2 communications, while Moobot is a Mirai-based botnet. Moobot has been exploiting a critical command injection flaw, CVE 2021-36260, in the web server of several Hikvision products since November 2021, and CVE 2021-35394 is an arbitrary command injection vulnerability that affects UDP server. CVE 2022-46169 is a command injection vulnerability that can be exploited by an unauthenticated user to execute arbitrary code on a server running Cacti. These vulnerabilities have a critical security impact that can lead to remote code execution, so patches and updates should be applied as soon as possible. Threat actors have been spreading Shellbot and Moobot malware on exploitable servers, and compromised victims can be controlled and used as DDoS bots after receiving a command from a command and control server. AlienFox is a modular toolkit that allows threat actors to harvest credentials for multiple cloud service providers. It's primarily distributed on Telegram in the form of source code archives, and some modules are available on GitHub. It allows attackers to harvest API keys and secrets from popular services like AWS SES and Microsoft Office. It is highly modular, evolving regularly, and is open source so actors can modify it to suit their needs. It targets misconfigured servers running popular web frameworks including Laravel, Drupal, Joomla, Magento, OpenCart, Petastrop, and WordPress. It collects lists of misconfigured cloud endpoints through security scanning platforms like LeakIX and Security Trails. The latest version includes a wallet cracker script for Bitcoin and Ethereum and an Amazon.com retail site account checker. In late 2022, security researcher Sam Sabitan discovered a series of critical vulnerabilities in several smart devices manufactured by Nexx, including smart garage door openers, alarms, and plugs. These vulnerabilities allow a remote attacker to open and close garage doors, take control of alarms, and switch smart plugs on and off for any customer. The researcher attempted to report the flaws to Nexx, but the company has never replied to the reports. The researcher reported the issues to the United States Department of Homeland Security, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, which assigned the following 5 CVEs, or assigned 5 CVEs, I'm not sure if they're here. It's estimated that over 40,000 devices located in both residential and commercial properties are affected by the above issues. To mitigate the risk of the exploitation of the above flaws, it is recommended to disable internet connectivity for vulnerable Nexx devices or protect them with a firewall. OpenAI recently addressed multiple severe vulnerabilities in its ChatGPT service that could have allowed attackers to take over user accounts and view chat histories. Now, before I go deeper in the story, I'm baffled at how Microsoft can invest $10 billion and Microsoft can have all of these super smart cybersecurity guys on hand and this kind of stuff happens. But okay. These vulnerabilities were reported by bug bounty hunter and Shockwave founder Gal Nagley, who discovered a web cache deception vulnerability that could lead to an account takeover. Another vulnerability was discovered by researcher Ayub Fatih, who found that it was possible to bypass authentication targeting another ChatGPT API, allowing attackers to read conversation titles, full chats, and account status. OpenAI responded quickly to the vulnerabilities, but has yet to run a bug bounty program to reward researchers for their findings. You should be ashamed. Kaspersky researchers have published an analysis of phishers' Telegram channels used to promote their services and products. The experts pointed out that crooks engaged in phishing activities have started to rely on the popular instant messaging platform more in recent months. Of course they would. The malicious actors offer free phishing kits that can be used to target users of a large number of global and local brands, as well as premium phishing and scam pages for sale. The cost of phishing pages goes from $10 per copy up to $50 for an archive containing several pages. Kaspersky has detected 2.5 million malicious URLs generated with phishing kits in the last 6 months. 6 months! And has prevented 7.1 million attempts by users to access these malicious sites within the same period. Wannabe phishers used to find a way out onto the dark web, study the forums there, and do other things to get started. But the threshold for joining the Fisher community has lowered since malicious actors have migrated to Telegram and now share insights and knowledge, often for free, in the popular messaging service. Taiwanese vendor QNAP recently warned customers to update their network-attached storage devices to address a high-severity pseudo-privilege escalation vulnerability tracked to CVE 2023-22809. This vulnerability was discovered by security firm Synactive and affects QTS, QUTS Hero, QUTS Cloud, and QVP, QVR Pro Appliances QNAP operating systems. It's a sudo policy bypass in sudo version 1.9.12p1 when using sudo edit. An attacker can trigger the vulnerability to achieve privilege escalation by editing unauthorized files after appending arbitrary entries to the list of files to process. The company has already fixed the flaw in the latest operating system, regularly updating NAS systems to the latest version. It also provides instructions on how to secure impacted devices. So the impact should be obvious, but the impact of this vulnerability is that it can lead to privilege escalation and allow attackers to edit unauthorized files. This could lead to data breaches, financial losses, and reputational damage for the companies and customers affected. It could also lead to the disruption of services and operations if you're using this in business, or even for work. What about all the pictures of mama and papa and granny and your kids and all that you store on your QNAP? Checkpoint Research and Checkpoint Incident Response Team. Researchers have detected a previously unknown ransom strain dubbed Rorschach ransomware that was employed in an attack against a US-based company. Ransomware is highly customizable, containing unique functions such as the use of direct syscalls. Attackers use DLL sideloading of a Cortex XDR dump service tool, a signed commercial security product, to deploy the ransomware. It's also capable of self-propagation when executed on a Windows domain controller. Rorschach also supports effective binary and anti-analysis protection techniques and evasive mechanisms, as well as multiple built-in options that are hidden and obfuscated, and which can be used by operators to remotely control the ransomware. Rorschach is one of the fastest ransomware observed to date, with encryption speed tests conducted by Checkpoint in a controlled environment showing that it can achieve even faster times by adjusting the number of encryption threads via the command line argument --thread. So the impact of Rorschach is to make me think about Rorschach the character. Besides that, the ransomware is wide-reaching and can affect any individual or organization that has been targeted by the ransomware. It can cause, I mean, as if that really tells you anything. That statement can be said about any ransomware, right? But it can cause serious disruption to the targeted company or organization, as well as the users and customers of the software. Now, data loss, system downtime, financial losses are all potential impacts of a successful Rorschach ransomware attack. How do you protect yourself? Individuals and organizations should ensure that the systems are up to date, really, with the latest security patches and antivirus and anti-malware software. Regular backups of important data should be conducted and stored securely, preferably on a separate system. The STYX Marketplace was launched at the beginning of 2023 and is specifically designed to facilitate financial crime, providing cybercriminals with a range of services, including stolen financial data, credit card information, forged documents, money laundering services, victim reconnaissance lookups, and more, probably like, passport generation and all this other kind of great stuff. The discovery illustrates the post-pandemic menace of cyber-enabled financial crime and the threat it imposes to financial institutions and their customers. Cybercriminals have been targeting new jurisdictions outside North America and the UK, including the United Arab Emirates and multiple countries in the European Union. These types of threat actors typically set up merchant terminals and business bank accounts to facilitate money laundering in the form of cash outs and bank drops. STYX has been operational for several months already, capturing a significant following in reputable cybercriminal communities in the process. ReSecurity found the threat actors have been using virtual credit cards and NFC merchant terminals fraudulently opened to facilitate illicit activity. Additionally, the firm shared 100 mules accounts with the victim FIs, enabling them to swiftly map out previously imperceptible money mules, rings, and other related criminal entities. Researchers from Orca Security have discovered a new vulnerability dubbed Super Fabric XSS. CVE 2023-233A3 with a CVSS score of 8.2 in Azure Service Fabric Explorer. This vulnerability allows an attacker to leverage a reflected XSS or cross-site scripting vulnerability to achieve remote code execution on a container hosted on a Service Fabric node without the need for authentication. The vulnerability impacts Azure Service Fabric Explorer version 9.1.143.6.9590 or earlier, and was addressed by Microsoft with the release of March 2023 Patch Tuesday security updates. The attack chain involves embedding an iframe and a vulnerable node name parameter in the user's context, which is used to retrieve remote files from a server, eventually leading to the execution of a malicious PowerShell reverse shell. eFile.com, a personal online tax preparation and e-file service authorized by the U.S. Internal Revenue Service, was recently discovered to be serving malware to visitors. It appears that the website was first compromised in mid-March and was not sanitized until this week, or last week. Upon loading the website, visitors were redirected to a fake network error page that instructed them to download a fake browser update called install.exe or update.exe in order to access the service. It appears that the attackers are using a valid digital certificate from Sichuan Yu Science and Technology Co. Limited, and part of the attack infrastructure is hosted with Alibaba. It is unknown who is responsible for this attack. However, hacker groups that exploit these types of flaws are typically state-sponsored groups or financially motivated groups. The victims of this attack are the users and customers of eFile.com who may have had their data stolen or systems compromised. So, the potential impact of this attack is significant for anybody who uses eFile.com. By exploiting the vulnerability in eFile.com, the attackers could have stolen user data, including personal information, financial information, and tax information. Additionally, the attackers could have installed malware on the user's computer, allowing them to gain access to the user's system and potentially steal further data or more data or gain access to other systems. So how do you protect yourself? Individuals who use online tax preparation and e-file services, businesses that provide online tax preparations and e-file services should have antivirus and anti-malware installed. Financial institutions that store customer data install and enable anti-malware software on all devices. Regularly update all software on devices. Make backups and blah, blah, blah. Capita, a UK outsourcing giant, experienced a cyber incident on Friday, April 3rd, which locked out its staff from their accounts. The attack disrupted some services provided to individual clients, but the company pointed out that the majority of its client services were not impacted. Capita has not disclosed details about the incident. However, its effects suggest the company was the victim of a ransomware attack. The company had restored access to Microsoft Office 365, and it is working to fully recover from the cyber incident. At this time, the company has no evidence of a data breach impacting its customers, supplier, or partners. Western Digital, a major data storage company. Really? If you don't know what Western Digital is, then I don't know what to say. They experienced a security breach on March 26, 2023. I don't even know how many billions of dollars this company makes in revenues, but they experienced a security breach on March 26, 2023. An unauthorized third party gained access to a number of the company's systems, resulting in a service outage for several of its products. In response, Western Digital has taken systems offline and is working with leading outside security and forensic experts to investigate the incident. It's possible that the breach was caused by a ransomware attack, but this has yet to be confirmed. The company is taking proactive measures to secure its operations and restore impacted services. So, the security breach has resulted in a service outage for several of Western Digital products, including MyCloud, MyCloud Home, MyCloud Home Duo, MyCloud OS5, SanDisk EB, and SanDisk Expand wireless charger. This could have a significant impact on users and customers of these products, as well as the companies that rely on them for data storage. Additionally, the breach could have a financial impact on Western Digital, as well as any companies affected by the outage. And that was the news. Thanks again for watching, and join me back on my beloved weekly cybersecurity news. Don't forget to share and subscribe if you have not already. And smash the bell if you have not already. And I'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
Don't forget to ride. Farewell.